The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It, is directed by Michael Chavez. It stars Patrick Wilson, Vera Farmiga, Rory O'Connor, and John Noble. This film is based off one of Ed and Lorraine Warren's famous cases, and we focus on a character named Arnie. Arnie lives in Connecticut. In the past, his young brother, there was an exorcism on him because he was being possessed. That exorcism didn't quite go well, so now Arnie is the one who is dealing with the demonic presence. Anyways, Arnie one day commits a horrible crime while being possessed, and he's about to be put to the death penalty. So Edward and Lorraine Warren, they try their best to convince the jury that while he committed the crime, he was possessed, aka the title "The Devil Made Me Do It." So as the viewer, we're watching Edward and Lorraine Warren figure out this case and also seeing them deal with this demonic presence that is just crazy. And we have our new film in the Conjuring franchise. So let's talk about the first Conjuring film. That movie came out in 2013. It was a huge success. Audiences loved it. Critics loved it. And it made so much money. It made so much money to the point where there has been a ton of spin-offs from that movie. There's been a sequel. It's a whole franchise now. And in 2021, they released a third movie. I love the first movie. I love the second one. And even though I thought the trailer was impressive, I was a little nervous because James Wan wasn't returning to direct. James Wan, he is a masterful filmmaker, in my opinion. He's made a lot of horror films. He's made a comic book movie. He's made an action film. The guy knows how to direct really well. So in terms of The Conjuring 3, I was just a little bit skeptical because it wasn't him coming back. But I was willing to give this movie a chance either way. So the question is, what did I think of The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It? I have to be honest, I thought this movie, at best, it was a mixed bag. This is not a bad movie by any means. This is definitely an enjoyable film. It's watchable. I can say that I liked it and that I would give it a fresh rating. But when you compare it to the other two Conjuring films, it definitely is not anywhere near on par with them. This definitely lacks the spark, the scares, and basically a lot of the great elements that were in the first two. A lot of it is missing in this new one. But like I said, it's definitely not a bad movie. It's an enjoyable one. So let's talk about this film and why I thought overall it was just a mixed bag. First and foremost, I do want to commend this movie for trying to go a different direction than the first two films. The first two films, they mainly focused on people in a haunted house. And inside the haunted houses, there was a demonic presence. That's not really the case in this movie, because this demon, he follows his character anywhere he is. So I liked how they didn't focus on convincing the church that someone was possessed. They actually had to go to the court of law and try to convince convince the jury that, this person is technically innocent because he didn't do it when he was himself. So I like that direction. This definitely feels more like a mystery than a horror film. And like I said, there are some good things. The opening sequence is great. The opening sequence is definitely one of the highlights of the film. It's one of the best moments in the franchise as a whole. I will definitely go as far as saying that. The opening scene, it's a strong start to the movie. And the first act is solid. It's good. And there's another scene in the morgue that was also effective. I wouldn't say this movie is necessarily scary, but there are definitely some moments that were intense and that had me on the edge of my seat. I will also say that the best part of this film is certainly Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga. These two are amazing in the Conjuring films. I mean, even in the first two films, they were huge highlights. And in this film, which is just a mixed bag overall, they definitely were the saving graces. I love their performances. Their characters were fantastic. And to be honest, if it wasn't for them, if they had other actors that were not as good as them, the score for this movie would be a lot lower. So thank God they were in this movie because they overall made this movie be watchable, despite the fact that they don't really play the role as paranormal investigators in this film. They're kind of more like a Sherlock Holmes type of role. And I didn't hate that, but it is just going knowing that it's a little bit different than the first two. And it's not bad that it's different than the first two, but it's just that the execution is just, and the spark is just not there that the first two films had, like Guy said. So my biggest problem with the film, honestly, is the screenplay. The story, despite the fact that it's based off such a famous case that was insane, chaotic, and obviously it was famous for a reason, it's just not that interesting. The second act, it has pacing issues, and it does come to a screeching halt at a certain point. The good thing is that the third act does pick up and it becomes entertaining again, but there was a large portion of the film that wasn't bad, but at the same time, you're like, damn, I just missed James Wan because James Wan never did this. He told the story really well in his first two films. And the pacing were always consistent in those movies. And you could definitely feel the lack of James Wan's presence in this film, is what I'm trying to say. So the story does come to a screeching halt. And even though it's based off a really famous case, the story is just not that interesting. And I don't think the real life story is not interesting to make a movie. It's just the fact that the execution is just not all that. It's just not all that great. And like I said before, this film is just not that scary. Like there's some moments that are a little bit suspenseful, but is it scary? Not really. The first two I would say are scary films, not this one. This is more of an entertaining mystery type of watch. So I was a little disappointed that it wasn't as scary as the first two. I wouldn't even say it's really a horror film, if I'm being honest. Like I said, it feels more like a mystery film than a horror film. And the finale was good. I liked the finale. Some parts of it I liked. I'm not going to spoil anything, obviously. And overall, it's just a mixed bag. The rest of the performances are good. There's no bad performances, but the character Arnie and his wife that are in the film, they're in it and they're good, but they're not fleshed out enough like they should be, you know? So, I don't know. This film does have solid direction. Cinematography is good. The atmosphere is certainly there, but the story is just not that interesting. Also, the scare, it's just not as scary as the first two, like I said before. It's a mixed bag. The reason why I'm giving this a fresh rating is because both Edward and Lorraine Warren in the film, they shine really well. They definitely are the heart of the film. I also liked how they made more stakes for them too. It's particularly for Ed Warren, who in the beginning of the film, something happens to him, and that certain event, it does affect him later on in the film as well. And I thought that added more suspense to his character. I'm not going to say what it is specifically, obviously, but yeah. Overall, I would give it a 6 out of 10. The Conjuring Devil Made Me Do It. It's all right. It's not a bad film at all. I could say I enjoyed it. And the review makes it sound like I didn't like the film. I thought it was all right. It's just nowhere near as good as the first two films. I'm going to make a very weird analogy, but just stick with me. Remember the film Sicario? Sicario, the film that came out in 2015 starring Emily Blunt? Fantastic movie. I love that movie. It's amazing. And they made a sequel. The sequel was good. It didn't have the same director, though. And you could tell that it wasn't the same director because the quality was just not as good as the first one, despite the fact that I liked the second one. And that's how I feel about the Conjuring films. The first two, they were directed by James Wan, and they were excellent. And the third one, it was just all right. And it wasn't directed by James Wan, and you can tell. So, yeah, I would give it a 6 out of 10. I saw this film in IMAX, and I would not say it's worth seeing in IMAX. If you want to see it in theaters, just watch it regular, to be honest. And it's on HBO Max as well, so you could definitely watch this at home, too. I saw A Quiet Place Part 2 in IMAX, and that, to me, is a film you want to see in that format. I can't say the same thing about The Conjuring 3. So, yeah, The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It is 6 out of 10. Mixed bag overall. And that's my review of The Conjuring 3. So, thank you guys for watching my review. I hope you guys enjoyed it and will take it into consideration in regards to checking out this film or not. My next review will be for the movie In the Heights, the new musical that's coming out in theaters and on HBO Max next week. So my next review will be next weekend. I can't wait to see that movie. That film looks great in my opinion. And I will see you guys next time with my review of In the Heights. So until then, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't, share the video if you want. And like I said, I'll see you guys next time. So take care. Have a good one. Bye.